It was right. It was right. Even though I'm not sure. When those others,
So, Anurag,
no, we still have 2 minutes.
I've given yes.
Not sure of that.
Just getting ready.
Yeah. We started rolling down.
I'm just getting ready. That's also.
So that is the
5 minutes.
you will start really like this change will not happen. It's change. So
Sorry?
So that is everything is continuous change. The dynamism is the only
Okay, sir. I will investigate the angle of think about it.
Take active partner. Bring the starting goal. You must take active part in every seminar. The contribute to paper. And encouraging others to participate. Economy start going to government.
What? Why?
Yes, paper value. You can start now.
He's still doing PhD. He's still doing PhD.
Huh?
He's still doing PhD. No?
Yeah. I'll submit.
Okay, good afternoon all. I request Professor Nagesh Kumar to conduct this session. We have two budding scholars present.
Thank you, Professor Narayan. Good morning, everyone. And this session is on industry. And we have two papers, one by Mr. Anurag Anand of Dr. Anurag Anand, who did his PhD from CDS Trivandrum, and works with this new center set up in Pune on technology, innovation and research. He will present on MNC's affiliation and their export performance. The case of Indian motor vehicles industry. And then after that, there is another paper by Mr. Samruddhi Ranjan Sahu from Center for Development Studies, Trivandrum, on determinants of exports in boom and bust. Evidence from the electronics industry, Indian electronics industry. So let me begin with Anurag Anand. You have the floor.
Thank you, sir.
Sufficient. Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and many thanks to FGCF for inviting me, for accepting my paper here, present, and giving me this opportunity to present my paper. This is my second time to present here, and I hope and I'll get some good comments from the audience. So I'll start my presentation. So this is on MNC affiliation and their export performance. So I've taken the case of Indian motor vehicle industry. Okay, I'll start from some very basic questions.
Yeah. What did you wrong? Now,
That's moving.
Sorry.
Because the technology guy, huh?
is
Right and
upside down.
Because right and left.
So,
You know which one to click.
so yes. So I'll start from why I have taken this industry specifically, and why this industry and why MNCs in motor vehicle industry, and why I have taken export, because if you see, my topic is MNC affiliation and their export performance in case of motor vehicle industry. If you see, can I just stand and
Yeah.
If we start, the mic will be there.
That's it.
Yeah. can I go there? Actually, I can't see clearly my.
There used to be enough.
There is also.
Yeah, it's,
Oh, wow. No, but you have 20 minutes only, yeah?
yeah, I'll just go there and
And it should be much more better.
my eyesight is. Sorry for the inconvenience. So,
You can switch on the mic there.
Yeah.
Switch on the mic there.
I think it's not working. No, that is.
so I have taken this industry because if you see this industry is the share of in GDP, it increased quite significantly from around 2.77% in 92-97% to 7% to overall GDP. And if we see the share of manufacturing in overall GDP is 15%. So around 49%, 50% share in total manufacturing comes from this automobile sector. And you see that, and this is the second most R&D intensive industries after pharmaceutical industry. Pharma industry spends around 34-35% in R&D, and this industry accounts around 21%. And why MNCs actually? So mostly I have compared my data from Professor Nagesh Kumar's PhD thesis, 1994. So what I found that in 80-81, the MNC share in motor vehicle industry was only 19%, and it increased to around 71% as on 2016. And if you see today, almost all leading foreign manufacturing companies have started their production of car in India, and the MNCs these foreign MNCs is highly dominating this industry. If you see this chart here, and this is one of the high-tech industries, motor vehicle industry. If you see the chart here, the share of high-tech industry in total manufacturing is only export. In export is only 10%, 10 to 11%. Whereas if you see the other developed countries, and China is totally different. Their share in high-tech industry is around 31%, 32%, and we are just here only 10%, 9%. So the high-tech exports from India are driven by specifically 4 industries: automobile, pharmaceutical, mobile, and electronics component industry. So my question was that, so until if you see late 1970s, the full market was controlled by 3 indigenous manufacturers: Hindustan Motors, Premier Automobile, and Standard Motor. And the market share of MNC in motor vehicle industry was only 17%, 16 point something until 75, 76. And
What is this noise?
2 mics because of that. You have to switch off one mic, they conflict each other.
You're only one.
hello. Yeah.
Let him use this, no?
Yes, yes, I will.
Is that on?
No, continue, no, it's
Yes,
on.
yes,
On.
I think that's. Last time also, that particular mic.
So use the hand mic, give the hand mic.
Also, you have particular mic.
No.
Just change the mic, it's not coming from this. We have the same experience.
Okay.
Now you can
So-
switch on the.
Hey, let him deal with it.
Okay, so if we see today, all top 5 exporting companies in motor vehicles is foreign MNC available. So my question was that, have the changes in the policy regime and liberalization of the early 80s made the introduction of several new models of motor vehicles possible, or something else? Because if you see another industry, if you take another industry example of Indian pharmaceutical industry. Earlier until 70s, it was all dominated by foreign players, and the price of the drugs was the highest in India, in the world. But if you see, we are dominating the market. We are the leaders in the market, and the prices of the drugs is lowest. But why it is not happening in other industries, specifically this other high-tech industries like motor vehicle and electronics? Why it is not? Where we are lagging behind? So if we see this policy reforms, so I've divided this policy reforms, how this foreign MNC affiliation came and entered India. If you see for this first, so I've divided this whole phase into this period into 3 phases. First was from 1947 to 82. It was progressive regulation, and it was closed market economy. Foreign promoters, foreign MNCs were not allowed to make any collaboration, either financial or technical collaboration with Indian companies. And the second was this started from 83, around 82, because in 1982 this Maruti Suzuki from Japan come with this technical collaboration with Maruti. So it started from 1983 to 93, and we have signed a joint venture with Suzuki in 1981. And then after that, if you see this in the first phase, many foreign firms were there before 1954. Mostly first and General Motors. This is, I have taken some MNCs who are in the motor vehicle, but other industries also like IBM and PepsiCo, others, they left India during this period. In 1954, they exit India, and then Ford Motors exit in 1954, and then again they came re-entry in 1994 after the liberalization period. And these are some collaboration from 1982 to 86. Earlier it was only technical collaboration with foreign MNCs were allowed. Then after 94 onwards, and this joint venture with foreign MNCs were allowed. So they come through joint ventures with Indian companies. And after 2001, when Government of India allowed 100% FDI in automobile sectors, then they come with wholly owned subsidiary or they come here. And if you see the production of motor vehicle industry, export and export intensity, if you see the production, it increased around 46 million units. And even export also quantity in numbers around 6,76,000 units we export. And mostly if you see, if you divide this, categorize this in between passenger cars and commercial vehicles, this only passenger cars. Why I have categorized this among passenger cars and commercial vehicles? Because mostly foreign MNCs are in passenger cars only. And when export intensity also, after 2001, when we liberalized our economy and foreign MNCs came, then the export intensity of MNCs increased. So with this background, my objective is to compare the export performance of firms affiliated to MNCs with domestic companies. So I've used panel data of 125 firms over the period from 16 years, from 2001 to 2016. So I've taken this period for two specific reasons. First was that when India pursued liberal policies and moved from FERA to FEMA regime in 1999, and particularly concerning foreign collaboration. And second, the Government of India allowed 100% FDI in automobile sector. I've used CMI progress data, and for defining the MNCs, I think yesterday Ma'am Ruchi ma'am also defined this. So I've taken three parameters to define foreign MNCs. There, first is very known, the companies whose overseas equity is 10% or more. This as per RBI and IMF. And second one is that the company should come under private foreign ownership group. And third one is the company whose foreign association is denoted in progress with ownership group F. For instance, this Unilever and all, they denoted with F. So I have considered all these companies as foreign companies. So for the methodology, I've used the two-step model, profit plus Craig's two-step model, profit plus truncation model. Because when you see the exporting, so there are two conditions. Either you are exporting to international market or not. If you are exporting, then how much you are exporting. So it gives the probability as well as the intensity. If your first condition is either you are going to export market, and if you are going to export market, then how much you are exporting. So the second model will give you the intensity of exporting. So I've used this profit plus truncation model. Yeah, so this is the standard model. I think yesterday Shreya also discussed about this model. These are some variables. So I've taken export intensity and decision to export MNC affiliation. If it is 1, if the MNC, otherwise 0, R&D intensity, and I've taken import of embodied technology, and this is very important, indigenous raw material consumed. Because what this is important specifically in this industry, specifically motor vehicle industry, or if you are working on electronics industry, then this indigenous raw material consumed, this variable is important. Maybe it is not important for pharmaceutical industry because our component industry is very strong, and many foreign MNCs, they come to India and they import our own indigenous raw material, these parts and accessories, and they assemble them, and then they export to the international market. And then indigenous, this selling and cost.
You have 5-6 minutes.
Yes,
more,
yes,
so-
I'm just coming. So yeah, so I'll discuss the results. Okay, so these are my results. Maybe I'll just so I've done this LR test and BIF test also to see the there is any multicollinearity problem. So VIF test mean VIF suggests that there is no multicollinearity. The mean VIF is 1.47. So findings. So from the R&D intensity, results shows that in-house R&D does not affect the probability of exporting. I was expecting that for the domestic firms, it may affect, but it is not affecting. It shows that Indian motor vehicle industry is importing technology and raw material from abroad, and instead of investing in R&D in India, because they mostly do it, and because and this is also this may be the also case that majority of the small firms do not invest much in R&D and are mostly reliant on the lead companies for the technical support, such as design, production efficiency, quality improvement, and development cycles. Also, the bulk of the R&D spending within this industry is still largely restricted to OEM, original equipment manufacturing. So, a new design is expensive to develop. So, and there is until there is any global demand for it. I was expecting different results from import of capital goods from the literature. From Professor Goldar has written, Aradhana Agrawal. I have compared mostly my results from Professor Narayana's paper, Vidisha Vyas and Sajida Ma'am's paper. So I was expecting totally different results, especially from this import of capital goods. But it says that the results are this playing a decisive role in the decision of exporting, although it is not significantly affecting the probability of export. It seems that the positively affecting the export intensity of domestic companies, but it does not favorably affecting the MNC's export intensity. So and for the indigenous raw material consumed is positively affecting the firm's probability and exporting for the both domestic firms as well as MNCs. So both MNCs and domestic firms buy raw material from local market, as the Indian domestic parts and accessories industry is well developed, and many small firms do not export directly, but they provide raw material to other big firms. So here, suggestion I have given there in the paper that indigenous raw material in domestic companies are positively affecting the probability, but it is not negatively. So the efforts should be made to improve the quality and technology of the indigenous raw material. It can be developed by supporting indigenous capital equipment and accelerating the training of workers with the latest machine. And this was also important indicator expenditure on selling and distribution, especially for this motor vehicle and this all consumer goods industries. It has positive effect because usually for selling the products in the international market, firms need to brand and advertise. It was positive and significant, both the cases for domestic as well as MNCs. And the amount spent on outsourced manufacturing job, this is also important. This is positive, and because it believed that the manufacturing firms outsource part of their manufacturing processes to other firms. It is not only cost efficient, but also help firms to concentrate on other states. The firm may thus produce quality of products and prices for the export market. And expenditure on wages and salaries also is positive, and it gave positive sign for the export intensity of the domestic, but adversely affecting the export performance of foreign MNCs. Because the choice of the production technology, either it is labor intensive technology or capital intensive technology. So it is also essential to determine the firm's export in the labor abundant country like this country and relatively capital scarce countries such as India. The adoption of the more labor intensive techniques of the production can give a competing edge to firm over its rival in the export market. Size turns out to be positively and significantly affecting the export performance of foreign MNCs and age also. So results suggest that the younger firms are more export intensive as compared to older firms. So after the liberalization, we have seen that many foreign MNCs entered India. They are relatively new as compared to domestic firms. And therefore, newer firms have an edge on superior technology with better production skills at the time of entering the export market. So as a concluding remark, just 1 minute. So I think the role of the government is essential to improve the international competitiveness of the industry, because we have seen other industries' role of government support is important. If we take the example of pharmaceutical industry, so there is a huge potential for knowledge transfer and subsequent innovation capabilities that can be tapped from collaboration with MNCs. We are not collaborating with MNCs. MNCs only collaborate with big companies. MNCs should, this small firms specifically, they should go and collaborate with them. And our domestic firms must interact with these MNCs to ensure there are knowledge flow while local firms' expertise improve efficiently. And we need to investing in R&D. This culture, we need to create the culture of investing in R&D. So I think we need to improve this investment in low products and technology with high volume. So because in a country like India, where these customers are highly price sensitive, localization of the industries are paramount important, and to boost industries share in R&D expenditure and export, we need to identify some technologies within the industry and where there is a potential to invest in R&D, because there hundreds of papers are there where we find that R&D intensive firms are more exportive in nature. So we must develop the leadership in some of the products and technology to become globally competitive. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Anurag. Maybe you can
come back
Yes.
come back with the seat and we can have a discussion. Before I open it up, I think my discomfiture with this paper, which is an important, industry important issue that you have tackled. My discomfiture is with your clubbing of motor vehicles manufacturer, the body manufacturers, and auto parts, and you call it motor vehicles industry. It is not motor vehicles industry if you include auto parts. Auto parts is a very different class of industry. So you do include a dummy to separate motor vehicles from the others, but I think the structural relationships between exports and independent variables would be different for the auto part manufacturers and motor vehicles manufacturers. So you could check whether just run the same equation for the automobile manufacturers rather than parts, and parts separate. So that would reveal something. So let me just throw it open to. Yeah.
In fact, I was doing the same comment.
Oh, okay.
Because of the observation based on early study, but let me elaborate on this. So I think, Anurag, it's a very good paper. You made a very good attempt. I want to compliment you for that. But you also added the coach building industry. So 3 categories of that. So there is I'll tell you the difference. The difference here is motor vehicles, you will see multinationals being present. But if you're talking about multinationals export, if you look at the components and parts, in fact, the Indian industry, Indian SMEs and others have also been very dominant. A lot of Indian firms are also there. So you will definitely see a big difference between the motor vehicle manufacturers and the auto component manufacturers in terms of the multinationals presence of multinationals. So therefore, since you're focused on looking at MNCs and export, all the more reason why this point is very important that you make that distinction, because again you make separately for the coaches as well. And if you can even classify the industry with the descriptive statistics, you can say how many MNCs are there in each of the segment and how much exactly they're exporting in terms of export intensity over a period of time. That will be very helpful for you to formulate hypothesis to test across these three classes. Otherwise, it's a very good attempt. Okay. This is a suggestion. Thank you.
Yes.
With what Nagesh said. When I looked at it a few years ago, the Indian automobile export has a peculiarity compared to, say, China and other countries. We export much more of full cars. The small car segment, many companies produce only in India and export to other parts of the world. Our export of components was very low. So does that still hold or has something changed in that?
But it's other way around. It's other way around. It's other way around. Maximum export is from
Yeah.
components and
Change
parts.
over time.
Yeah,
We'll come to that. Yeah, but good point. Yeah. Any other? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Why the source of raw material matter for the exportation? That's what my question. There's a source of raw material, whether you indigenously.
Yeah,
source
why
or-
you think this also? Raw materials?
What about the value chain aspects? That is also something to be taken into account.
Yes.
Value chain.
Go.
Yes.
Every year here, we have at least couple of papers on export. We have taken into account all the earlier papers.
Yeah.
And all the earlier authors are here, including Golden. And every time we share these papers, there's an improvement over the earlier, otherwise we won't ask it with the on the part with Narayanan and Nagesh Kumar made, either you can take an example and do a separate regulation for components, or you can give apart from a slope intercept domains, you can also give slope domains. Now, the advantage in giving slope domains is it will tell you whether the difference between automobiles and component manufacturing for exports is statistically significant or not. If we separately estimate, it will show you there's a difference. To test the statistical significance, slope domain is easier. So in any case, they all pointed out, they cannot be clubbed. So merely intercept domain won't hold them. So you must have a slope domain.
I need a clarification.
Yeah.
See, this truncation that is only for those who are exporting. Right? That is estimated in the room.
Yeah, so
Yeah, wait a minute, but isn't there a selectivity bias there? Because it is confined to only those industries that export. Because you have a two-step, one TOEIC, which includes all, and this is truncated. I mean, TOEIC is fine, because you're including
Yeah.
to those who don't export zero, that's fine. So I thought there was some selection bias there which you need to
Test for.
test and account for.
Right, sir. So if I can add.
Sure.
So, sir, I did see, you have the two stage, the first stage is the profit
We
model.
can't hear you.
Take it a bite.
So that mic makes noise.
That might be.
No, it's throwing.
No, it's a simple question that, even the, Shreya was talking about the exclusion restriction, have you included the exclusion, the first stage, we need a variable that explains the first stage and doesn't have much to do with the.
Yeah.
second stage.
Okay.
I could not see.
All right,
Yeah.
now responding to Devnath's point about that we used to export very little of components. It had changed because, there was until 2000, we had this clause of foreign exchange balancing imposed on any foreign manufacturers of autos, which means that if they imported any components, which every one of them does, they had to export as much. So that forced some of these big companies, Ford and General Motors, to look at India's potential of providing, components for export. And they have set up procurement subsidiaries in India, which buy regularly from Indian component manufacturers. So they're $20 billion of exports of components every year. So this has changed in last few years. Good, now over to you.
Thank you, sir.
Response.
thanks. Yes, your suggestion. So, yeah, okay, I'll take this dummy of auto components and motor vehicle industry. And regarding the source of raw material, it was on imported raw material consumed or simple import of raw material. Imported raw material, this raw material consumed, I have taken indigenous raw material consumed, because from the literature and the other websites, it suggests that this domestic this component industries are very, this is very strong, and mainly these Indian firms, Tata, including Tata Motors and all big companies as well as small companies. So instead of importing technology from other countries, they simply import domestic firms only. So they become the part of, and it's not that they are not efficient and they are not exporting directly to international market. They are supplying raw material, other components to big companies. So they become the part of value chain, and they are supplying raw materials to other big companies. And including yours point, so I've taken both firms, those who are exporters as well as non-exporters firms in my data, and we see that in the first stage, I've taken this all the companies, and it suggests that only if we have taken this truncated, this Probit and Trunkis. Probit model suggests that we have taken only those companies, those who are exporting, zero,
That's what I'm
right?
saying.
Yes.
So
And
how is this estimate?
the truncation model, so, okay, so,
This is
two-stage model.
This is over.
This is two-stage model,
Two-stage model.
Probit plus truncation.
But still, and because it is restricted,
The question is valid. We
there
talked
is
it.
a bias in the.
So anyhow, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this paper, and I'm sure you would find these comments and suggestions useful and work further on it to make it really strong.
I think I have one
Sir,
point.
sure.
Yes.
Your reference list is very dated. For example, if you give grain, you are giving 2002 edition. And grain, I think over the years, he has included his content and his, yeah. For example, the 8th edition is 2018. I think that's something like that you should look at. And the other point is you omitted a very important Masalan is important literature in panel data models. You are using panel data, no?
Yes.
Therefore, you should basic Gujarati is okay, but I think you should basic book like Masalan is very important.
So you have got a lot of good comments, which will help you to, improve your paper. So with that, we turn to the second paper of this session, which is by Smriti Ranjan Sahu on determinants of exports in boom and bust, evidence from the Indian electronics industry. So over to you, Smriti. Use this using. Good point.
Hello everyone. Okay, I must thank you, Knowledge Forum, for giving me this opportunity to present my work. This is the first time I'm attending, and within this 1.5 day, I learned a lot, and directly or indirectly, I have use the resources of Knowledge Forum, like while writing this paper. So yeah, so now let me go to the presentation. So this is a small attempt to understand the export of Indian electronics industry. Why? Because in recent years, mostly 3-4 years, it has been in debate. Like export is a lot of news, and from the Ministry of Electronics, and so export has increased like say 100% increase in export. all those things. So I thought like to look at the like how the export behaved over the years, and to explain it, like what factors determining it. So there lies the motivation. So this industry is important for the economy, because we know, like you can see that its CPA has increased between this like 10 years. It has increased. CPA has increased around 60%. So its share in gross high and medium high tech industries is always, if you see from 2000 onwards, it is always more than 5%. There is new startups are coming up. We are every day using it. So this industry is like important because it goes into the production of the output produced by these industries goes into the production of other industry as intermediary input, and also consumed as the final input. So there is a strong forward and backward linkage in this industry. And since being say high belongs to high, medium, high, and high tech industry, so generally we expect that this pay decent wages and high wages and yeah. So and what is another important thing is that there is a huge export potential in this industry. Over the year, the use of electronics goods are increasing, and India is having a potential. We can see from the last 4-5 years increase in the export of this industry. So we can see that from 1991, 1990 afterwards, after the export growth from the trend of this. So export growth, it was stagnant after ITA 1, 1997. We free trade, though import increased like significantly. We also started exporting 1991 afterwards. Till 1997, there is a little increase in the export, and I must say that even today there is a huge trade imbalance in the export and import of electronics product. But but we can't ignore the increase in the export of this industry. So and which is this part after. No, I want point. Okay. So we can see that till 2008 or 9, that is it followed the increasing trend. After that, there is some decline. Then after 2000, this is around 2016-17. There is a huge dip in the export. Then so the present the export thing, which was it is in news that export increases is because of this shortfall. But that is not because of that downfall. But that is not the major objective of the paper. Since when I thought about this thing, when I looked at this trend, so I thought like, okay, this is not a linear, every year we are increasing. No, there is some fluctuations are there, and okay, so I thought of like analyzing these phases, does the how the farms export during this fluctuating phases. So we identified two major phases. So if you look at the growth trend of electronics export, and another caveat is that this electronics export, and I have taken as whole electronics product. This include your consumer electronics, durable, and final. So that is a limitation. So, it was like number of observation and those things issues there. So this is only electronics industries export. So after we can see that after 2008, this has so after 2006-07 it has declined. Then went this phase. It has then increased. then it started again falling. This is the India's export, and this is the world's electronics export. So, from this two graph, we can, visually we can see that okay, there are three phases are there. So, we want to exactly identify where is that particular phase from where the export started declining. So for that, I use the structural break test, Bhaikaran structural break test, where this method find out endogenously the break. It allows the data to choose which is the potential break date. So through that, I find out that there are two major. There is one major break. Of course, you can have more than one break. So, but if you limit to one major break, so you can get that. So, we can see that till 2000, from 2000 to 2009, there is one phase where export growth. This growth is computed by seeking the exponential growth rate after finding out the two phases. So, we can see that from 2000 to 2009, the growth rate was 26.70. This is average annual growth rate, basically, after taking into account the things. So, and the second period from 2009 afterwards, it declined to 7%. And this, the growth, the export growth of world electronics product declined before that. Yeah, from 2000 till 2006, it was growing. From 2006, I exactly don't know because this is little before the financial crisis, 2008. I exactly don't know why this electronics export from after 2006 declined. So, but we can derive the, we can get the intuition that we can say that okay, world India's decline or reduction in the electronics export is because of this exogenous factor where you have less demand in the global market. Because of that, Indian electronics, this export growth, India's export, you can see a decline in the India's export. So this is the, and since we find out, okay, these are the two major period. So now we want to see okay, in these two period, what are the factors which strategy firms adopt in a burst period where there is drastic and sudden decline in the demand for electronics product in the global market. So is it same, does the firm adopt the same strategy, or when they are in the boom phase, is in the burst phase? So that is the actually motivation and objective of this study, to identify the factors or the strategies which firms adopt to survive in the export market. It's basically those firms which are already in the export market, what strategy they are adopting to survive in the export market when there is a reduction in the demand for export in the world market. That is the basically the objective, or yeah. So there are now there are a few theories. Which those who are working in trade, everyone must be knowing this thing. Mills paper, 2000, very celebrated paper, year paper, where it's adopt Dixit Stiglitz monopolistic competitive farm, where each farm is different. They produce differentiated product. You have a falling average cost. Then another point is that you have your sunk cost. To export, you need minimum idea about the market demand. You need to have the resources to export. So those things you need before getting into the export market. Those costs you, if you are a productive firm can afford that. So generally, those firms get into the market, export market. But over the year, it is observed that only even with high productivity, many farms do not export into the enter into the export market. They limit themselves into the domestic market, mainly because they fail to derive the profit from the from exporting. So this profit can be very low during a low growth phase during the burst period. So because and since already your demand is low, we can expect there is a stiff competition among the farm to survive in the export market. So you need to adopt other strategies to be in the export market and to export successfully. So there are other theories, very recent development. Mostly this literature mostly are coming up after 2008. That you need apart from the high productivity, you need other strategies also. One is your minimizing the cost of production, like low cost producing methods. You can go for the locally sources input, or you can cut the R&D expenditure activities, and so that you can minimize your cost of production. So and you can survive by providing a competitive price in the export market. So other group of say that they buy the product differentiation. You can survive in the export market by innovating, spending on advertisement to increase your visibility of the product, strengthen the market and marketing and distribution channel in the foreign country. So or you can adopt a mixed strategy, okay, with high production efficiency. So these in the Indian context. So here, this is not selective. So you can see many authors' names who are present here. This is not selection. This is just a coincidence, because before writing this thing, I wrote. This is not a selection bias. So so there are many factors these scholars have identified, which explain. To explain the export performance of Indian firms to either, and they also have combined the factors into technological building technological capacity, for example, R&D expenditure, your royalty payment, all those things in the technology, variable to capture the technology and all. And many studies are also there for example, for Narayan for the chemical industry, and Kumar Siddharthan for the 11 manufacturing industry, so individual industry. So all these factors, they have identified so many important factors. For example, import of raw material, research and development activities, payment to the royalties, and know-how and technical efficiency, all those things. So these factors, these determinants vary depending upon the industry and the time period of the study also. So by reviewing, keeping the theory in mind and reviewing all this paper, I came up with certain this set of factors which your export intensity is your dependent variable, and technical efficiency, which we computed by using the stochastic frontier production function, and your R&D expenditure, first leg of R&D expenditure. All these are in intensity format. M&E affiliation, that is just before this presentation, Anurag explained how to. So that way, like if a firm is a private with 10% equity, or is a totally foreign owned, and or both. So taking all if a firm is is in this group, we are classifying that as a M&E. So these are I also have taken into domestic raw material because the argument which I just explained, because reduce to get the local resources. So data from CMI, I have divided this period into two parts based upon your structural break test. So this CMI, and I have sufficient number of observations to test the model, and this is the descriptive statistics. We can all these intensities are 0 and 1, between 0 and 1. So, and I did three models to test, because all these models are different in the sense like some capture certain thing, others don't. Your pooled topic do not capture your random effect, and XT topic do not take into account the endogeneity between intense technical efficiency or productivity and your export. There is a bidirectional causality between those two variables. So this is the specification of the model. Okay, now, okay, this is very small. Okay, what we can see that this is not visible, right? Okay. I can explain. Okay, so thing is that what we found is that R&D activities during the burst period is not significant, but in the boom period it is when there is a high growth. In the high growth period it is there, which but in low growth period firms are cutting on the R&D expenditure, going for the import of capital good and import of raw material. That is more easy to get the technology or so instead of going into the R&D activities, which takes time to get realized in the output, and so then another thing is that in the advertisement and marketing expenditure, which is not significant during the boom period, but in the burst period, their firms are adopting a other strategy to export to increase the visibility of the product. We have the size of the firms computed by the log of gross fixed asset. That is significant in the burst period. When there is low growth, in the low growth period, that is significant, but not in the boom period, which implies that large firms can survive in the export market because during a low growth phase, because they have the capital and so they can absorb the stock. So you have another is that technical efficiency in the XT topic model, that is significant during the burst period, and but not in the boom period. So another thing is that most important thing is that domestic raw material intensity during the high growth period, that is not significant, but in the low growth period it is highly significant, and we say that okay, when we have low demand, we want to survive in the export market. Let's do some cost cutting and use the domestic raw material, and our domestic raw material, as Anurag just told, for these two industry, automotive industry and electronics industries, quite good. So that then these are the major findings of this paper. Then okay, this is the major finding. So we have during the burst phase, usually we are getting that technically efficient firms are exporting, large size firms are exporting, firms using domestic raw material is significant in explaining the export growth during the low export growth period, and firms are not going for R&D activities and all during in the low export growth phase or burst. That is the thing. Thank you. So we can link this thing to your size thing into the recent PIL scheme. Today morning I was reading a news item that published in April 20. So linking the large farm with how the large farms are exporting, and because of that your electronics export increase around 120% or 4% something. So this is the policy implication maybe. We can do it.
Thank you, Smriti Ranjan Sahu, for a very interesting paper, especially I think distinguishing between the determinants of export in boom or high growth phase versus those in the low growth phase is an interesting contribution or the sort of points which a point of departure for your paper, compared to many other papers written on export determinants. So that makes it very interesting, and obviously there is some point that in the low growth phase firms try to adjust themselves and try to make most of what they can. But the point which struck me is you said that in the low growth phase, they switch over to domestic raw materials to become more competitive because they are cheaper. So rationality would demand that if the domestic raw materials make them more competitive, why they should not use them in the high growth area also? So that is one thing. Then your observation about R&D, that they switch over from doing R&D to imports in the import of technology during low growth phase. Also, I think it's not that easy to switch over from one strategy to the other. But one needs to really explain this with some kind of case studies. I mean, supplement your results with some, field observations, whether this company or that company. Just a few examples will make it more convincing. So these are the few points which were hitting my mind. But let me throw it open, and I'm sure everyone says yes.
Well, first of all, I must compliment you for a very interesting topic, because I think, as Nagesh just said, that this comparison of boom and bust is interesting to see how the firms actually adjust their strategies when the market conditions change. However, I have a few points here. When we talk about electronics industry, it's a very peculiar industry in the sense that it is one of the two industries where global value chain started happening in the 1960s. Since then, it is dominated by a few countries which have successfully got integrated into these global values. We know that, how the Southeast Asia is too much into this, and then China, then now Vietnam. They are actually exporting much of this. So I think that entire discussion in your paper focusing only on Indian industry looks somewhere, it looks that something is missing in this when you present this paper. The context is missing there. So I think that has to find some mention there because it is not a standalone industry in India. So secondly, when you talk about exporting behavior, about the change in strategies, thing is that if they are exporting, are they exporting through some value chain, which I think is the thing. And if they are doing so, how independent they are in adjusting their strategies, you see. So these are the questions that arise, when you talk of this kind of thing. So, and also, electronics industry is a very vast industry. It is highly diversified, has kinds of different components. There's computer also, semiconductor. There's so many things. So, I just wanted to see more on that how these different components or different segments of the industry were affected by this. So, but global value chains, I think, is a point that has to be brought into the picture when you are talking about behavior and the strategies.
Thank you. Devnath, Dr. Lal, and
Just to add to that, see, when you take comp trade, you in comp trade data, you get products, you get the whole value. Say that China exports an iPhone, so the whole value of the iPhone comes into the export. But what China actually adds in value, in that only a small portion of it. Therefore, if you look at the trade in value added data, which is produced by OECD and the WTO, I think that will give you a better picture of what's happening with this with this area. Because there are three big areas. One is design, second is components, and the third is assembly. So what part are we in and how are these faring? We are surely not in design. I doubt we are much in components. We are really in assembly. So I think this needs to be brought into the discussion in terms of what's happening to exports.
Professor Lal.
I have a minor clarification regarding the use of size indicator. You use fixed assets as indicator of proxy of size. Is that the right thing? Because you don't add moreover, fixed assets added this year will not impact export this year. Probably it may
Lag
impact that, 2 years, 3 years, maybe next year. And I can understand since you are dependent variable in intensity, so the actual sales of total size, total sales is already taken care of. Is there any other reason to take fixed asset as size or use for use in this form? To my mind, is really inappropriate in the market. Your comments.
Yeah, Professor Gold.
Yeah, first I must compliment the author. Boom bust is really an interesting thing. We have never thought of it really, but that's really interesting. Perhaps others will come. But what I noticed is that the certain references that you showed and others, you do not go beyond 2013. Subsequently, a lot of papers have been there. I'm talking of the Indian manufacturing context on export behavior. And particularly, I want to draw your attention to the papers by Subhas Sasidharan. Actually, I'm also learning from a number of papers that he has, including the issues of financial constraint, because you cannot export, you have a financial problem, or the issues of some cost. Since you are into it, you have to do it. Or there are some such issues. Or you can also take a look at a paper which I had with Rashmi Banga and Karishma Banga, say IPF paper, which goes into the question of services input as helping.
I have read that.
You have read it. I have a paper in last year's conference, ACGDE 2021. There again, I go into what sort of, I don't think, what should be the specification. And I bring in the ICT into a video. So the point here is, think of what others are doing. Perhaps those could be, maybe, may not be, but what other variables that people have brought in and thought to be important. That is one point. Second is much of the modeling is based on the self-selection. So you are totally ignoring that somebody who enters into export, there is learning. That part you have not allowed. That I'm exporter, my productivity will go up. That portion we have not. So, although I'm not saying others are doing it, but the question is, as a point, there is an issue. Third is, several times during your presentation, you said survival. But you are not doing any survival analysis.
No, yeah.
Actually, Sasidharan has a paper on survival.
You have also a paper.
Yeah, I don't have a paper. I have a very old paper.
2013 paper, pharmaceutical industry.
That's not survival, but I have a paper on survival. But that shows that an exporter is more likely to survive in the sense its factory will survive.
Yeah, that,
but if this paper is not there, this is only one journal, only one issue of that journal, and then journal stopped.
It didn't survive.
It is available on it. That one issue is available.
Journal didn't survive.
that paper, ASI plant level data, that paper I have.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, journal one issue came and the journal has not come, but it's okay. It's okay as long as it's available on the internet. So point here is, if you really seriously want to do survival, then do a survival modeling. Survival modeling, there are survival modeling surveys. Or you can do what Professor Srinivasan had once done. That is during say 10-year period, how many times a factory exported. During the boom period and during the bust period, only 1 year, 0 year. So you have a different model where the dependent variable is number of years during that period the factory had or a company had survived. So you have a sort of an I don't know what is sort of model. It's not order. It is count model. But he had a count model, and that count model could also provide some insight. That's right.
Thank you, Professor Krishna.
I think it's a very good paper. Only I would like to, also go on the question of weak instruments. And you've presented the 3 estimates. Which one, actually all of them have problems, but which one really recommend as the best among the three. I think that kind of a judgment
that
will be
we-
useful.
Yeah, the preferred
Yeah.
model.
Preferred.
Come on.
Because XT topic model do not take into account.
You can
other
dispose of it.
areas.
Yeah, but I see that the values are exactly the same in both the pooled
Right.
and the XT model.
Right.
So it
So
looks
this
like the
that-
IV is.
I also give for this, I think a good paper, respecting this problem. I just have one suggestion on the R&D. There is a paper published in, I think, research policy or somewhere, which differentiates between financial crisis and the normal years. In financial crisis, R&D intensity for all firms declined, but some firms increased. And what is the cause of increase in some firms during financial crisis? Then you have a look at the debate, talks about simplicity and creative destruction and creative accumulation. Normal times he calls it creative accumulation. And crisis time is a creative destruction. And so some firms change their R&D pattern and increase. That will help you to interpret your results better. You have a look at that.
Yes, sure.
If it is not in, if you can't find the paper, send me email.
Yes, yes.
I will send you the correct reference.
Reggie.
I have two questions. Did you look at what all products are exported and who are exporting? This is my first question. Second question, how did you arrive at the boom period and bust period? You just looked at India's exports and when exports are growing, you assume it is a boom period, and when exports are declining, you assume it's a bust period. Or did you look into the global demand pattern? Why I'm asking this is that sometimes the regulations, the domestic regulations can also impact the exports. If we look at the first half of last decade, we see phones like Micromax, Java, they started producing smartphones, 3G and 4G phones, but suddenly they disappeared. This was because there was all these companies, they had a dispute with foreign firms which had the standard essential patents which controlled the 3G and 4G standards. So gradually these firms disappeared. So we did not see the smartphones manufactured by those firms. So probably such regulations could impact the export. So that's why I'm asking you to look at who are exporting, what are products being exported.
Good. Any other? If none, then I turn to Suzuki for responding some of the points.
Okay. Thank you very much. These all are great comments. Yeah, great comments. So so I must admit, this is not my PhD work and all. So I I come across into 2019. I come across this news event. I saw that okay, everyone is talking 100% increase in export. Let me see the trend how it is. Is every time it is 100% export or so? Then when I look at the trend, I had the data. So when I look at the trend, I thought like okay, this is interesting. Maybe I can find out the. I seriously lack understanding on this industry, that I admit, because this is on this I am working on industrial agglomeration. So this is not but that is not an excuse, but yeah. So that should not be excuse. So this is all very good comments. First, I'll start with Ratna ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So that GVC component, that I should maybe I can take the world export, electronics export in the model to see, or somehow I have to that I have to think. Maybe I'll discuss with you. They are exporting the same value chain. That is also so diversified industries. So diversified. Okay, I also came across this in KJ. Professor KJ Joseph also worked on this thing, like dividing the industry into component industry, capital, export, finance industry, and the intermediate. So intermediate industry. So yeah, that issue is there. That issue is there. I tried to solve since I'll work on this thing. This is then Devanathan sirs about the using the trade in value added data. Yes, I have never thought about that thing. I'll try to look at that because I was not aware about this thing, trading value added data. So yeah, I can complement the work with this data that will help. Yeah. And for Lal sir, so gross fixed asset sales, in literature they use gross fixed asset and sales as a like some use sales, some use gross fixed asset as a indicator of size. So I don't have any other reason to use gross fixed asset as a indicator of size, but yeah, that is the thing. Yes. Yes.
Just a general comment from a technology point of view. I think for us, it's very relevant to know the products.
Yeah.
Yesterday also I had this problem of pharmaceutical industry now. And here also the same, I can't sort of relate myself to any technological change without knowing what products you are talking about. So general comment.
Yeah, and I forgot about Nagasar's comment. About the complementing with the field survey kind of some experience. Yes, in literature, Smith Francis paper, she gave some instance about the Samsung manufacturing in Tamil Nadu. Yeah, that. So I have to explore. I have to explore. That is the thing. Why not domestic raw material during the recession, or why not in the boom page? So actually, I took a set of we have the R&D, we have the import of capital good, import of raw material, import payment on the licensing, and all these variables are there. What I observe is that during the low growth period, import of capital good is the coefficient is increasing than the boom period. In the worst period, it is increasing. But this domestic raw material use is not significant here in the boom period, but it is in the low growth period. Maybe they are complementing so yeah, we can't directly, like in one period, we can't shift to R&D to use of domestic raw material. That is impossible. But I answer that we need time, firms need time to adopt. But yeah, on that line, I should reflect more. Yeah. So yes. Then two more. So Golders, yeah, very useful comments. Says, yeah, these are all comments to suggestions. I am not replying, just extending my
You got very good suggestions.
Yeah, very good suggestion. Very good suggestion. And Siddharthan sir, I'll email you the paper. Yeah.
You have a look at the paper.
Yes. Sir, I actually used it it's so it is I looked at the export growth, India's electronic export growth, and I tried to find out the break using the Bhair structural break test. That from there I divide two phases. So that thing, how the what is the products? Yeah, I have not looked at like what products. I can look at. I have all the ISIC codes. I can look at which products are imported and exported. So yeah, that is that. But yeah, that is the thing. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you, Anurag and Sahu. Two very important, quantitative papers explaining export growth in two different industries, auto and electronics. There is a lot of work going into that, and we all agree that they can be enriched further with the comments that have been made. One thing which I forgot to mention to both of you is relevant. The firm size, generally its impact is not linear. So you might wish to check for non-linearity the firm size. Firm size works in a very complicated manner. To some extent, it will be helpful, then it works again, and then maybe. So what checking about the non-linearities in the impact or effect of firm size on export performance. But I think both the papers have some very interesting insights. The but effect on structural relationships is certainly something we need to keep in mind. And I'm sure both of you have benefited from some of the comments and suggestions, and that will help you both to improve your paper further. And I'm sure next time when Knowledge Forum meets, you will have something more interesting to say. Thank you. On that note, I want to just close this session. Thank both of our presenters and all of you who contributed to the rich debate. And now over to the batch upstairs on the third floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we return at 2 o'clock.
Although we have spent 15